Hi, I'm Mrs. C, and welcome to Math Defined. Today's video is about adding decimal numbers. But don't forget, if you like this video, make sure that you do smash that like button and let me know that you like it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel today. Your support allows me to continue making more videos just for you. All right, let's get started. So our first example is taking this pair of decimal numbers of 8 and 2/10 and adding it to 3 and 46/100. Now, I will tell you now that if you know how to add whole numbers, adding decimal numbers is going to be just as easy as whole numbers. The only thing is we have to understand what to do with that decimal point. And that's really the only difference. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this problem in a vertical format. And when I do that, I'm going to make sure that I line up my decimal numbers according to their place values, just like you would do for whole numbers. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and take my first decimal number of 8 and 2/10, and I'm going to put that at the top. And then my 3 and 46/100, I'm going to put that at the bottom. Now, I want you to notice that I was really careful to line up those decimal points. And when I line up the decimal points, what that does is it automatically aligns the place values for both the decimal numbers and the whole numbers automatically. So now that I have my decimal numbers lined up, the next thing I want to do is I want to look at my numbers and decide if I want to add zeros or not. And so when I look at 8 and 2/10, I see that there's one decimal number, which is the 2/10. And in 3 and 46/100, there are two decimal numbers, the 4 and the 6. So I want my decimal numbers, digits, the number of digits to be the same in both the top number and the bottom number. So I'm going to go ahead and add a 0 to the right of the 2. And I want you to remember that when you add a 0 to the right of any decimal number, that does not change the value of the decimal. So 8 and 20/100 is equal to or is equivalent to 8 and 2/10. But adding that 0 makes it a little bit more visual for you so that you can see that you're adding the hundreds and then the tenths and then so on. So adding those zeros is a really important thing to do so that you don't get confused when it comes to lining up the place values. So the next thing I do is I just add. So just like when you're adding with whole numbers, you're going to start all the way to the right and work your way left. So I'm going to start in the hundredths place and I'm going to add 0 plus 6 is 6. Then I'm going to go to the tenths, 2 plus 4 is 6. And now this is where it's a little bit different than when you're adding whole numbers because I see that I have a decimal point here and all I have to do is bring it straight down into my answer. And then I just continue adding. So I'm going to move on to the ones place and I'm going to add 8 plus 3, which is going to give me 11. So the answer or the sum to 8 and 2/10 plus 3 and 46/100 is going to give me 11 and 66/100. All right, let's try a second example. So now I'm going to take this decimal number of 12 and 974 thousandths and I'm going to add 5 and 3/10 to it. So again, I'm going to I'm going to rewrite the problem in a vertical format, making sure that I line up my decimal numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and write 12.974, and then I'm going to make sure that I line up those two decimal points. So I'm going to put the 5 under the 2 in the ones place, and making sure that I get that 3 underneath the 9 that's in the tenths place. So I'm going to make sure that those two decimal points are lined up because that's going to align my place values. The next thing I look at is, do I need to add any zeros? And I think adding zeros to my bottom number here is quite appropriate because my top number has 3 decimal numbers, but my bottom number only has 1. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 zeros to the right of the 3. Again, that does not change the value. When you add zeros to the right of a decimal number, 5 and 300 thousandths is equal to or equivalent to 5 and 3/10. The zeros just make the addition process a little bit easier. So now I'm going to start all the way over to the right in the thousandths place, and I'm going to add 4 plus 0 is 4, then 7 plus 0 is 7, 9 plus 3 is 12, don't forget to carry that 1, And then I'm going to bring that decimal point straight down to the answer. Then I'm going to add 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 5 is 8, and 1 plus 0 is 1. So I get an answer, or I get a sum of 18 and 274 thousandths. All right, before I wrap this lesson up, I want to show you something that you should never do, okay? So in my experience as being a math teacher, I have had students do this, and every time they've done this, they have gotten the answer incorrect. So they went to go ahead and rewrite it in a vertical format. So let's start that. So they would take their 12 and 974 thousandths, and then instead of lining up the 5 and 3/10 according to the decimal numbers or the decimal points, they lined it up by the digits like this. And so when you do that, you're going to end up with an incorrect answer. And so let me show you how that happens, okay? So I've written this out. I have not lined up my decimal points. We know that that's one of the mistakes that's happening here. And in the bottom number, I'll go ahead and add 3 zeros so that I have the same number of digits in both of my numbers. And let me just go ahead and start adding. So 4 plus 0 is 4, 7 plus 0 is 7, 9 plus 0 is 9. And then I see a decimal point, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that straight down to my answer. And then I'm going to continue adding. 2 plus 3 is 5. And then I see another decimal point, so I would bring that down into my answer. And already you should be looking at this going, wait a second, that just doesn't look right. And you're absolutely correct, because we don't write numbers with more than one decimal point. So if I were to finish it off, the 1 plus 5 is 6, I would have a very strange looking number. And I might read it like 6 and 5 and 974 thousandths. It just looks strange, so you know that it's wrong. So if you don't line up those decimal points, you're going to see that you have a problem, because you have 2 decimal points in an answer, and that's not possible. And even if you look at the answer itself is really quite different than the 18 and 274 thousandths that we got the first time. So just remember, always line up the decimal points, and that's going to go ahead and line up your place values, making it easier to add and to get the correct answer. Well, I hope you found this video to be helpful, and I hope you click that like button, and I hope you became a subscriber today. And I really look forward to hearing or reading, actually, some of your comments about other videos that you would like me to make to help you along your journey of math. So until I see you next time, thank you so much for watching.